Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Kageyama, and I'd like to welcome you to Be Your Own Hero. I'm a stage 4 prostate, bone, and lung cancer patient slash survivor and doing very well, enjoying this incredible Texas weather that we're having. It's really, really nice and clear and warm and just loving life, absolutely. And I am so excited to have a very special guest today, uh, Vicki Goodman. And it's really interesting how we connected because I usually, I, I've never taken somebody who's reached out to me about an interview. I've always just turned them down or just wasn't interested. But I was very intrigued with her story, and she's got a really great story. So I'm really happy to be able to share her story with all of you. And she's got a lot of amazing things that she has to say. And so at this time, I'd like to bring on Vicki. Vicki, welcome. Thank you very much for joining me. Please tell us who you are, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Mark. I'm so glad that you were interested in my story because I'd love to tell it. I am Vicki Paris Goodman, and I'm an author. I wrote a book called To Sam with Love, a surviving spouse's story of inspired grief. I am a retired mechanical engineer and real property appraiser, kind of a strange combo there. I play violin and sing both semi-professionally, and what else? Oh, and I reviewed theater in Long Beach, California for a local newspaper for over 20 years on the side just for fun. So, I also am a bit of a cancer survivor myself. In 2004, I received a breast cancer diagnosis and had a lumpectomy and radiation to the breast. I was on tamoxifen, a hormone blocker, for 5 years. And then that was the extent of my treatment. And so far, my cancer hasn't returned, and I'm fine now. My book, however, is about what I experienced with my husband's cancer diagnosis. We had recently retired from Southern California to Prescott, Arizona. We'd moved into our brand new house in a beautiful place and were loving life when we received a terminal liver cancer diagnosis for Sam. His cancer had spread to the pancreas at the time of diagnosis, and we were told that there is no miracle to be had here. There was no record of anyone surviving his particular diagnosis. That's what we were told. I don't know that it's true for a fact, but that's what we were told. And we did everything we could for Sam, and he wasn't as lucky as you were. And he did pass away 2 years later. What makes my story unique and uplifting is what happened after Sam passed away. I was almost instantly, after losing the love of my life, flooded with optimism. It was as if a helping hand was coming from somewhere outside myself to guide me along. And what makes this particularly stunning is that I was raised in a secular family. Um, Secular progressive family where everyone believed, everyone I know of at any rate, did not believe in a higher power, believed that people who did believe in a higher power and in an afterlife were foolish and weak. And this is where I came from. And I've come so far away from that to being very spiritual and having a definite belief in a higher power myself now, especially as I experienced what I experienced after Sam died. I was also presented with opportunities galore that I felt motivated to embrace. I even acted in a play at our community playhouse after deciding to go to an audition. I'd never done that before. I was presented with insights and revelations, clarity that again seemed to be coming from outside of myself. I'm not accustomed to being presented with uh, uh, flashes of wisdom, but that's what was coming my way. And after 2 years of all of this, oh, and all of these serendipitous things that happened that I at first chalked up to coincidence, but after about the sixth or seventh one, I thought this isn't coincidence, something's going on here. So after all of this, 2 years of it anyway, I decided to write the book because I thought the story was so uplifting and optimistic and inspiring that if I wrote it right, it could help other people who are grieving. For one thing, some of the insights that I received completely change the way our culture has taught us to think of death and loss. And these are concepts that will transform the way others think of death and loss to where they will be able to, I'm confident they'll be able to move on after the loss of even the love of their life with enthusiasm and optimism. That's how
Let's
powerful these
let me
insights
let me
are.
pause you a little bit. Let's back up a little bit and talk
Sure.
about your journey with Sam uh, through his cancer journey. So he got, if you could talk a little bit about his diagnosis and what was said to you, and then talk about what you were thinking at that time as well.
Well, it's interesting because we had 2 years to get used to the idea that Sam would likely not survive. I did, I guess, something called anticipatory grief. As soon as we received that terminal cancer diagnosis, which again was liver cancer that had spread to the pancreas at the time of diagnosis, I told Sam I was going out for a while every afternoon for an entire week. And I knew there was this patio attached to a Starbucks in town that no one ever used. There was no one ever out there. And so I went there and, cried my eyes out for about an hour each afternoon for an entire week until I decided the ritual had served its purpose. And I stopped going to the Starbucks and I stopped crying. And at that point, I was ready to uh, deal with whatever we were facing. And Sam's first course of treatment was actually not the best course of treatment. It was a pill form chemotherapy, which I didn't know existed. It was a pill he would take. It came from a special pharmacy. It was extremely expensive. Medicare didn't cover it. This organization called us and said, we're here to qualify you for a payment of you know, of the medication so that you won't be burdened financially by it. And we qualified. I sent them everything they asked for. And yeah, so it was called sorafenib, pill form chemotherapy. Was on it for a little over a year until it stopped working to keep the tumors from growing. And then he would get the better treatment, which was an immunotherapy. Now, in the meantime, I had been doing research and found that there was a better immunotherapy for his type of cancer, but it hadn't been approved for his cancer yet. It had been approved for other cancers, but not for liver cancer. And so I was trying to get Sam in these clinical trials around the country, but for some reason, all the clinical trials for nivolumab uh, required participants whose cancer hadn't spread. So obviously, Sam didn't qualify. And that was where one of the serendipitous things happened. It turned out I got so frustrated one night in the middle of the night that I took my tablet into the den and said, when will nivolumab be approved for hepatocellular carcinoma? I was just blowing off steam. But this post came up that was about 10 hours old. Nivolumab, the better immunotherapy for Sam, the one for which I was trying to get him into a clinical trial, it had been approved for his type of cancer 10 hours earlier, that very afternoon. So he wasn't ready for it yet, but I knew that when he was ready for it, he'd be able to get it. And sure enough, he did. Unfortunately, there were complications from his taking that immunotherapy, and didn't, it didn't turn out to be as promising as we'd hoped. But given that the doctors had said Sam would live only about a year, at the most two, and he did live 2 years, I guess everything went as it was supposed to. Although you do hear cancer stories all the time, people like your own story of people who defied the odds and survived. And, in the back of our minds, even though all of the doctors had said, Sam will not survive this, not 1% chance, not 0.5% chance, 0 chance. They wanted us to know, but you still, as human beings, we still think there's going to be a miracle, and we did.
It's my thought that if you are able to open your eyes to a new day and you're breathing, there's always a chance. That's just my belief. And
Mhm.
um, I just believe that the doctors aren't God. They what they tell you is the best that they know at that particular time. But that doesn't mean that that's gonna that's gonna be your fate unless you want it to be. And that's I think the mind, what I found through my journey is the mind is so incredibly powerful. It is so amazing, and that's what I've learned through my journey is how strong your mind is if you put it into action, and how it can help you to get better. And I learned how to open up and unleash the power of the mind, and it helped me tremendously, and that's
Mm.
one of the reasons why I'm still here. But go ahead.
Well, that's pretty much it, except that during the last 6 months or so of Sam's life, there were signs of complications from the immunotherapy. And at the very end, the last couple of months, I needed to be his caregiver as he declined. And I had him in a 5-day beautiful hospice. When he first went on hospice, it was respite care thing, just 5 days, while I got the house ready for him with the help of hospice nurses and others who were wonderful. Everybody tells you hospice is wonderful. Well, these people really were. They would have done anything for me and us. And then toward the end, the last month of Sam's life, I didn't think I could keep him at home. There were signs he might start choking on his food. And what if that happened while the home caregivers that I was getting 13 hours a day, what if that happened when they weren't there? And so I wound up moving Sam to what's called a group home with a male nurse who ran it with his wife. Um, and there were 12 to 12 residents could be there at any given time, and obviously around the clock trained care. So that's where he was the last month or so, and that's where he passed ultimately in July of 2019. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that. I mean, I can't even imagine losing the love of your life. And so, I mean, you've just been blessed with so much strength to carry on. And I'm really glad that you did. And so,
Oh, thank you.
yeah, I mean, I'm really impressed with your strength. So, uh, yeah,
I was helped. That helping hand, something come from outside of myself. I know it was God. And, it was a pretty great first experience of being aware after all these years of life, of being aware that there is help out there, that I don't have to do it all myself.
Yeah, that's definitely a very comforting feeling. I
Mhm,
know. I know. So
mhm.
let's talk about, yeah, let's fast forward. Let's talk about more about your book and what you want to accomplish with it and how you feel it can help people.
Okay. Well, what I did was I divided the book into roughly thirds. The first third is about Sam's life and a little of my own and our time together so that the reader could get to know us. S- Sort of to achieve the maximal impact at the point where they get to Sam's death, which is in the central portion of the book, where I talk about his diagnosis, his treatment, and his ultimate death. I wanted that to have the most impact, and I wanted my loss to have the most impact before I moved into the latter third of the book, where I talk about all these unexpected, optimistic, inspired things that happened to me after Sam passed. And I really thought the story in its totality could help others. And since then, since I published the book, that's when I began to receive some of the insights that I think are the by far the most powerful. And I've put those in 3 audio episodes that are online. So, and we can talk about those at the end because I want to make them available. So that's what I did with the book. And some of the insights are there. All of the stories of the serendipitous events that occurred are there. The
Can you give us
actually the
can you give us an example of your favorite one?
well, I think the best one is the fact that very soon after Sam passed, I would go to bed at night, turn out the lights, and you know how you're just lying there quietly. Most people, I don't think, fall asleep right away. I don't. It takes a few minutes. And I saw this smoky grayish white thing appear. And I thought, oh, it must just be a manifestation of my eyes growing accustomed to the dark. And sometimes it would be so subtle that I was kind of maybe imagining it, I thought. Other times it was more vivid and pretty hard to ignore. And a few months later, it changed color. It changed to a neon yellow green. But again, sometimes it would be vibrant, and other times it was barely there, and I didn't know if I was actually seeing it. After a year of this, I told God, I said, you know how I've begun to pray recently, and you know how uncomfortable I am praying for things for myself. I always prayed for other people because it just didn't seem right to pray for things for myself. So I said, I'm going to do something different tonight, God. I'm going to ask you for something for me. I am growing weary of wondering if this neon yellow green apparition, or for, lack of a better way to describe it, is a manifestation of Sam's soul, kind of hanging around um, and being with me still. So I have a plan. I said, this is this is what you can do tonight when I go to bed. If this is really Sam, would you make it more vivid than ever before and make it maybe move differently, or just make it appear different so I know the answer is yes, this is Sam. If it's not Sam, just give me jet black, which would also be sort of the clear absence of the phenomenon. And if it appeared just sort of a miasma, the way, we all see, we don't notice that, but, we do kind of see, I don't know, I can't think of any other way to describe it than sort of a miasma in the dark. Um, if I see that, then I'll know you just chose not to answer my prayer, and I'd be no worse off. So that night, I was almost afraid to go to bed. I thought, oh my gosh, what have I done? What if I get jet black? am I ready to find out this hasn't been Sam all this time? But I couldn't stay awake forever. So I went to bed and I turned out the light. And usually this thing took like 3 to 5 minutes to appear, and it would just kind of either float gently around or kind of go in and out gently. On this occasion, it appeared immediately, vivid as ever. And instead of the gentle movement that I just described, it frantically shot across my view 4 to 5 times within a second or two, and then off, gone. So I burst into tears and I thanked God and I said, I will never question the identity of the apparition again.
You just gave me
That's what happened.
chills. I mean, absolute chills. Wow. That
I
that
know.
that is an amazing story, and thank you for sharing that. Wow.
Yeah, I was amazed.
Wow. I bet you were. I mean, that is incredible. Uh, is there one other story that you'd like to share?
Sure. So a few weeks after Sam passed, I was driving to one of two celebrations of life that I would be hosting. I decided to have a larger one in Los Angeles, where we'd come from and where most of the people who had known us forever still were. But first, I had one in our new town of Prescott, and I actually had it at a little venue because I realized that even though we'd only been here a few months, I had 60 people on the invitation list, and 49 of them were able to come. So I couldn't have it at our house. So I was driving to the venue, and Sam's favorite flower had been sunflowers. He loved sunflowers. So I was going to have sunflowers on the table at the venue. So I'm driving, I've almost arrived to the venue. And suddenly there's this cartoonish bright blue little car in front of me, and there was a flower coming up from the roof of the car, and it was bent backwards, so I could clearly see it wasn't just any flower, it was a plastic sunflower. What were the chances of that, Mark?
Zero.
Yeah, so that was another thing. So, oh, and this one's, I'll tell too because it'll just take a few seconds, and that is when I published the book. I didn't choose the publication date. The printing company, Ingram Sparks, did. And I couldn't believe the date that wound up being the publication date of the book was Sam's birthday.
Wow. That is
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. And there were several other things too. So yeah, there was there was strange stuff going on.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Absolutely amazing. So, what would you how would you like to conclude and sum up everything? Oh, you wanted to share your the information about the uh
Oh, about the 3 audio episodes.
yes.
Yes, thank you for giving me that opportunity. Yeah, so I have a free gift for you, and it really is not to be missed. These are 3 audio episodes, about 12 to 15 minutes each, and the content is life altering. These concepts are a whole new way to think of death and loss that puts our culture's awfulization of death to bed. That means that as a survivor, you can look forward to your next chapter of life with optimism and enthusiasm. These are free. And to get the 3 audio episodes, go to inspiredgrief.com, enter your first name and email address, and that will subscribe you to the series. It's free and well worth the time you'll spend listening to them, I promise. Inspiredgrief.com. Also, my book is, again, To Sam with Love, a surviving spouse's story of inspired grief. And the best pricing currently available for the book is at inspiredgrief.com/book. I've discounted the pricing there. So the book and the free 3 audio episodes, I look at them like a toolkit. the audio episodes completely upend the way you think of death and loss. And the book serves as an example, kind of a roadmap to guide you forward into an exciting new chapter of life. So I think the two combined are awesome.
Do you happen to have a copy of the book right there?
I can run and get it in about 10 seconds.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Yeah. And by the way, I will post the links, all of Vicky's links, and there's quite a few of them. I will post it in the description for you so that you can click on and go directly to our website and get these three audiobooks for free. Go ahead, Vicky.
So, okay. There it is, To Sam with Love.
Wow, that's
That's
beautiful.
thank you. And on the back, I even have the little blue car with the, the flower sticking
Oh
up
my
from the roof.
goodness. That is fantastic. Wow. That is
Yeah.
what a great cover. Really well done. Really well done.
Thank you. What that is, the shadows walking into the lake there. That lake happens to be Watson Lake, right about a mile from our house. And the figures in the shadow walking, sort of looking like they're walking on the lake, walking on water, are a man and a greyhound. And I tell that story in the book. We had a greyhound that died just a few months before Sam. It was a lot of loss all at once. And so a friend of mine happened to find this image of a shadow of a man that looks like it could have been Sam from his stature here, and walking a greyhound. But,
wow.
yeah,
Wow. That is really
yeah,
great. That is really
yeah.
great. So I have one, well, I have two questions for you. The first one is uh, what would you, how would you want to articulate Sam's passing to help other people? What would be the best way that they could do that, after they've read the book?
His passing was quiet. I think if I have any regrets, it was that liver cancer makes your brain kind of foggy, and because the ammonia levels in your body keep rising. So I couldn't talk to Sam at the end. I couldn't talk to him for the last couple of months. I guess I could talk to him, and he'd rally occasionally during that 2 months, but we really couldn't have conversations or discuss what was happening. And I wish we could have done that, but his type of cancer precluded that. So I was there with him at home at first and then at the group home, but I would just sit and hold his hand. So, I did what I could, and maybe I would talk to him a little bit, but mostly he sat in a chair at the end sleeping, so I just hold his hand and not know what else to do. So I don't know how inspiring that part of the story is, but that's the reality of what I was faced with at the end. Um, is that what you meant, Mark,
Yeah,
when you
I
asked?
mean, and that's fine. Sometimes the circumstances are such that that's all we could do. And I know you did your very best.
Yeah.
Okay, so my final question for you is this, and this is totally unrelated to everything we've talked about. We live in a very negative, divisive world these days. I mean, there's just so much going on. How would you help to make this world a better place for everyone?
Well, all the more reason, and thank you for asking this. I think the fact that the world is in the condition it's in means there's all the more reason to find positivity and optimism where we can. So in the world as it is, people are still losing loved ones, the loves of their lives in some cases. And if I can help with this book and these audio episodes and these astounding concepts that came from outside myself, I'm just the messenger. If I can help people not to awfulize death and to see it for what it really is, and the audio episodes will get you there. There's just not enough time in this interview to go into it all. I think that's one thing that I'm trying to do in getting this message out. Heck, I would like to start a movement, Mark, a movement to get people to see death and loss for what they really are and not what we've been taught by our culture to see them as. There's so much more optimism to be had in losing our loved ones. That might sound funny, but it'll make perfect sense if people will just go and listen to the audio episodes and hear these concepts in their entirety.
That is great. Absolutely fantastic. And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge and your journey and your late husband in the book. And I will be putting all of this information in the description so people can go right to you and contact you. And I just want to thank you so much for your time and your just openness. I just love it. Absolutely love it. So thank you so much, Vicki.
Thank you for having me, Mark. It's been my pleasure.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'd like to thank everyone for joining us here at To Be Your Own Hero. Please subscribe, like, make a comment in the comments section. And I hope everyone has a very, very blessed week. And we will see you next week on To Be Your Own Hero. Have a great day and the rest of your week. Thank you.